Welcome to the ScariFYer Halloween special, brought to you by Fireball.
Because Quinn can't get through a show without it.
Slungiva.
Scream for your life! To a new world of gods and monsters.
Happy, happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock.
Happy Halloween, you psychos and maniacs. This is part 2 of the ScariFive Halloween special. I am the Ace.
I am the Gov.
And I'm Quinn.
And you are in the house that psychos built. Happy Halloween, everybody.
Happy Halloween.
I hope everybody's staying safe. And we got a special show for you today. We all decided that we were going to make lists, a top 5 list from each of us on Halloween.
Very unique edition of ScariFive.
Yeah, it's a special ScariFive. We all have separate topics of what makes Halloween unique and our perspectives on it. So we're gonna go round table with each list, discuss them, and hopefully it encourages you guys to get on our social media and give us your list and tell us what you think. So we're gonna start with Cheers. So we're gonna start with Quinn. Quinn, what is your top 5 list for this Halloween special of ScariFive?
All right. So what I wanted to talk about a little bit is the holiday of Samhain. This is a very big...
Samhain.
Yeah, exactly. This is a very big holiday, especially in my family. Got a lot of Celtic and Nordic blood in me. I mean, anybody who has seen me can tell. So the wonderful thing about this holiday is it coincides a lot with Halloween itself. So a lot of the modern day traditions do tie back to it. So a lot of my favorite things to do are a part of it. So starting at number 5 is bonfires. What bonfires were initially set for was to imitate the sun. That way it helped promote the power of healing and kept the winter at bay a little bit longer, gave people more time for the harvest, kind of elongate that a little bit. So bonfires were very prominent, especially in different villages. And now they're really good because in a way they kind of also help bring those villages together. And nowadays you can even see a lot of gatherings for Halloween do that. That's my top 5, number 5 for that.
Who doesn't love a good bonfire? We're here in Lake George, New York. It's upstate New York, Northeast. Beautiful time of year to have a bonfire. Just for the social aspect, obviously very interesting with the Samhain aspect of it. I'm going to say that on purpose.
It's German, right?
Yeah, it's something like that.
It's Halloween, too. The only thing about bonfires in New York is we don't get to have the full-blown stacks of wood adorned by gasoline bonfires. We have rules and regulations against that one.
That is the one thing I miss about Ohio. We used to have these gigantic... Back in that place where I grew up...
You mean Ohio? Yeah, so what? You grew up in Ohio. It's no big deal.
Okay, so back in Ohio, we would do the massive bonfires.
That's
and I
cool.
remember Dad, we had stacks. It was almost 8 feet tall, and he just doused the thing in gasoline. Safely, kids, don't play with matches, and it was huge. I do miss that.
Or play with matches that just don't get caught.
Exactly. All right, so number 4 is the tradition of bobbing for apples. Bobbing for apples. I mean, I used to love it as a kid. What it originally was used for was apples were also a sign of immortality. And when they were bobbing for apples, if you caught an apple, you would be guaranteed immortality in the afterlife after you passed. The other thing about it is when women would bob for apples, they would peel the apple long way around, throw the peel over your shoulder, and that would take the shape of the first letter of the man that you're going to marry. It's one of those things that has really become a staple, and I always enjoyed it as a kid.
So there's always a point to these things.
Yes, there is a long history about it.
I think that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun to hear about where all these crazy little traditions come up. When you were a kid, who didn't love bobbing for apples?
Exactly.
Who knew it was going to give you immortality?
Right?
Especially if you didn't come up.
Number 3 is a very common one, trick-or-treating.
Yep.
Just talked about a whole movie about that.
I know. So, the original point of trick-or-treating is people would take various food items and drink items, and they would leave them outside the door, and it would go one of two ways. Either people would come by and just pick up what they needed and continue on, or the more common one was they were helping almost like trade off supplies. So people would like come to houses and sing or recite poetry, and then they would be given different items such as like bread or fruits and vegetables, meat, and that's what trick-or-treating nowadays represents. You go, you ask, and you receive something.
Interesting. I mean, I read about trick-or-treating. I mean, that's, obviously has like, has the religious, connotation to it. In America, I read that, back in the 30s and 40s, basically Halloween was a night for pranks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people would, like legit throw rocks through people's houses. So,
Sure.
So in the late 40s and early 50s, what people, neighborhoods would do, they kind of banded together and be like, you know what, let's bribe these kids without destroying our house. I mean,
Yeah.
basically.
So they
started giving out candies and treats and stuff like that. And what America knows is traditional trick-or-treating. That's how it began.
Oh, okay, that's a kind of a relief. I thought you were gonna go. The parents band together and said, "Fuck this," and started buying up razor blades to put in the candy and stuff.
Rough
maybe
childhood?
some of them
Yeah.
were that jaded, but
Well, the interesting thing is, like, if you're a child of like the 70s and stuff, the baked goods were more of a trick or treat than prepackaged candy, and that's when you would find the hypodermic needles, the razor blades, the glass, and stuff like that.
right.
So on that happy note, mumming. Also the tradition of guises or dressing up.
Called mumming, though. That's
Yep.
interesting.
Mumming. Think about it. It's dressing in garb from head to toe. It's also a twist on the word mummification. It's mumming. It's donning a guise. That was just something that was done celebratory. Druids tended to do it quite often. They would either do it with garbs or they would do it with paint. That was really popular. They would have beads, twigs, anything. They'd put it in their hair. It was just something that kind of became a thing. You dressed up for this. You celebrated ancestry, and it also helped keep spirits that were negative away. And then that obviously turned into what it is today.
What was your guys' favorite Halloween costume?
As a kid?
Any all-time favorite.
I still dress up. Are you kidding me?
I know.
All-time favorite costume you ever dressed up as?
Oh, I need some time. Someone else go first. Because again, I got 30 years of this.
I'm caught between a childhood one and one I did as an adult. I'm caught between. I did a Harley Quinn, hence my name. And when I was younger, my younger sister and I dressed up as Thing 1 and Thing 2. And that was
Very
freaking
cool.
awesome.
Gov, you still need a minute?
Actually, you know what? I think I got it. And this was one that I did as an adult. It was a few years back, though, but I put a lot of work into it, and the result was awesome. I went as Teen Wolf to
I remember that. It was amazing.
Halloween party, and I went to the nines with it. I had the Letterman jacket. I had the Beavers 42 shirt. I had my aviator shades, and I have a very close Michael J. Fox prosthetic and hair combo. It was a bitch to put on, but totally worth it in the end.
I would have to say, as a kid, teenager, preteen who went trick, I think my favorite costume was when I first started watching horror movies. I discovered The Crow, and I was all about The Crow. And one Halloween, I found a Crow City of Angels.
Oh, yeah.
Not City of Angels.
Stairway to Heaven.
Stairway to Heaven
Yeah.
costume.
Oh, my.
From the old sci-fi movie series starring Mark Dacakis. That was the coolest costume ever. It had the jacket, it had the bullet holes in the shirt, and obviously painting your face like that is always a blast. And as an adult, I did a surfer sting, which was pretty epic. But I gotta say, my favorite one was the one I got the most attention for because of the pain I put myself through. I did Boris Karloff's Mummy, but it wasn't the Mummy. It was Ardith Bay Mummy. So I did an old age stipple using collodine on my entire face.
Ouch.
And ouch is correct. I could not. I mean, it looked fantastic. Don't get me wrong. But talking and moving my mouth, I couldn't do it, or it hurt like a motherfucker. And I remember us going. We went, a whole bunch of us. We dressed up as the classic monsters. We went and did a hayride, did some haunted houses, and then we went to Denny's for dinner. And it was a blast, but our Dracula kept making me laugh, and I couldn't laugh, and I kept pounding my cane on the floor next to the table because I literally couldn't laugh.
God.
It reminds me of that Key and Peele sketch where the guy can't laugh and he just
Yes.
keeps breaking things.
Yes, and it's basically what it was. And boy, was that painful to get off my face. I mean, months after, I was still pulling plastic off my face.
No.
But
I'm going to take a stab and say that you didn't put an oil base first before you did that.
No, I didn't.
That would be why.
I thought I knew what I was doing. I clearly didn't. Usually when you do that, you usually do it with a latex base, put cotton on it, let it dry, and then let it shrivel up, and then paint the collodine over it. Yeah, I didn't do that. It was straight collodine to my face. And
It's a hell of a way to learn.
Yeah.
but it looked awesome. That's
all that matters.
It looked
Right?
awesome.
It was worth the pain.
All right, moving on with your list.
All right. So, my number one is Halloween parties.
Well, who doesn't like a good party?
Exactly. I'm a huge sucker for them. What they were originally used for was different clans would come together, even if you had a rivalry with a family. That was the one night you could not fight. There was nothing but peace. You were there to drink and eat and celebrate ancestors and help them pass into the afterlife. Help guide their way. If you did have an issue, you either weren't allowed to come or you were very quickly ejected. So it was very much politics or arguments or whatever you want to call it was stepped aside, and you just had this big festival and gathering.
Really? Because in most houses in America, the party doesn't start until someone's kicking the shit out of each other.
I was about to say, so you're telling me Celtic clans with booze and they don't fight?
Well, that was the thing. You had moderators. If you have ever been to any of my family gatherings, you learn quickly. There's moderators.
Alrighty.
We call her grandma.
Quinn, that was a great list. And again, to any listener out there, if you want to chime in on any of those topics, on your favorite experience trick-or-treating or your favorite costume, please comment in the section below wherever you're listening to this on our social media. Now we're going to go over to the Gov.
All right, so we're talking about ScariFive for the holiday of Halloween. And one of the things we love to do as traditions growing up and still to this day is watch horror movies or Halloween-themed movies on TV. And what would those movies be without the Halloween horror hosts? For my ScariFive, I'm breaking down my top 5 Halloween horror hosts.
All right.
So, number 5. This was inevitable that she has to be mentioned. Vampira. Otherwise
Number 5.
known, yeah, otherwise known as Mela Nurmi, the very first horror host. She did the character for about a year, maybe a little bit longer, because they constantly repeated her episodes because she was so popular. She also took one for the team by being in Plan 9 from outer space, and just legend status. We wouldn't
Certainly.
have anyone else on this list without her.
Clearly an icon, and you're absolutely correct. We would have no other horror host without at least a female horror host, for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
She really pioneered that, and surprised I'm actually kind of surprised she's 5. I thought she'd be a little higher.
Well, I do have other female horror hosts. It's actually mostly comprised of that because, let's be honest, they're the best kind of host for this stuff. So going on to number 4 is Elvira, otherwise known as Cassandra Peterson.
Again, low.
Yeah, I know. I know, but there's so many great horror hosts that it's hard to decide. And Elvira is, again, classic, great. She had more humor infused with her character. However, she may have deserved that lawsuit by the previously mentioned Elvira, but we still love her. And also, as a person, I've met her at cons. She's an amazing human being.
Yeah, no, she definitely, if not number 1 for me, she'd definitely be my top 2.
Yeah.
So, Cassandra Peterson, still at 69 today, gorgeous, still rocking the character.
Yep, she will every now and then pull the character out for a special. Usually Halloween she does something streaming nowadays and stuff like that. But that brings me to why my top 3 is because these are people who are still doing it. They're keeping it alive and well. So I have to give them respect for that. Meaning number 3 is going to Joe Bob Briggs.
Joe Bob.
For his triumphant return on Shudder.
Oh, yeah, Monster Vision on TNT.
Monster Vision, exactly. He brought all of us into this community one way or another. I remember staying up, watching his stuff. And the unique thing about Joe Bob is he's so different. He's not a vampire. He's not a ghoul. He's not a mad scientist. He's this Texan bolo tie wearing guy who likes to drink Lone Star, and yet he has sometimes wrong but knowledge of horror movies, and he has a chemistry and a charm that's just appealing, and he is rocking it still on Shudder, and we're trying to steal his audience.
Grew up with Monster Vision. TNT was really the first monster movies that you really got to see that was played more than just on Halloween.
No, he kept that show going.
Because he had the AMCs and the TCMs, and they'd only play their monster movies in October. Joe Bob gave us an outlet to see these movies and discover movies without having to be October.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good number 3.
Number 2, because the Gov whores out to endorsements, Malvolia. Jennifer Nagle.
Right.
You want to know why? Because I'm shameless, and she is a friend of the show. So I want to give her a place. And you know what I like about her is she doesn't do spoofing.
Yes.
She doesn't spoof. The reason why she has to be on this list and so high on this list is because she's daring to be different with the horror host character. She's doing it straight. She's doing it creepy. She's doing it eerily. She's not making a clown of herself. And again, friend of the show, so I have to throw it at her.
No, she's absolutely fantastic, and I can't agree with you anymore on that pick.
Definitely check her out if you guys get a chance.
And the number one horror host for the Gov's money is Sven Gulli. Specifically, Richard Kaz as Sven Gulli. He started in the early 70s. There was a previous Sven Gulli, but he advertised himself as the son of Sven Gulli, but sooner or later, the son became the father because he is still doing the character to this day. He has a show on MeTV, and he handles all the classic monster movies. He doesn't really break into modern stuff. He handles the Universal movies. He handles the Harryhausen movies. He handles a lot of great stuff, and he has the perfect balance of comedy and knowledge and stuff like that. And he's one of the guys who I remember watching and saying, like, I want to be like that guy. Sven Gulli, definitely my number one.
That's a number one. I mean, I can't argue with. I mean, I honestly, if I'm putting anyone at number, it's gonna be Sven Gulli, Vampire, or Elvira. I think anyone is right.
I mean, I do think that, you know, the other ones on this list definitely have the press, the PR to warrant more of a number one and stuff like that. But the stuff that Sven Gulli cooks up and the things he says, and again, lacing his humor with actual knowledge of the films, and he will talk about them.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting. It's not boring. It's not lecturing. And, you know, who doesn't love a good rubber chicken joke? So
Absolutely.
Definitely for me.
Gwen?
Definitely have a lot of respect for that man for still continuing on doing what he's doing, and it's not dull and it's not drying out or anything. It's still great.
And he has no intentions on stopping.
Exactly.
Nor do we want him to stop. So we're going to go into my ScariFive list. We're going to go top 5 must-watch movies on Halloween. There's the thing right there. On Halloween. Not building up to Halloween, not a day before Halloween. If you set up your own traditions, the movies that you have to watch on Halloween, or a movie you have to watch on Halloween, to me, this is the top 5. For me personally.
Bring it on.
But before, I do have 3 just barely missed the list.
Honorable mentions.
Honorable mentions. So one of them would go Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah.
Tim Burton movie?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What movie doesn't put you in the Halloween spirit than that?
Solid.
Number 7 would be The Wolfman.
Yeah.
Classic Universal Monsters.
Lon Chaney.
Any classic horror. And number 6 would be Dracula 31.
Okay.
Again, 2 classics that, you know, are usually staples on all the, you know, the TMCs. At least they used to be.
Yeah.
Right.
So getting into the list itself, my 4 and 5, I kind of threw it to the kiddies.
Okay.
Number 5, Hocus Pocus.
Yes.
Well, yeah. That has to be on there.
That
Yeah.
that has to be, you know, on Halloween Day. What,
It's a Halloween
especially
movie.
for the kids.
Yeah.
you know.
I argue it's for anyone. I still love watching
Sure.
it.
Yeah. Do you guys think we're gonna get a sequel?
I know we're going to get a sequel
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
Bette Midler just announced it.
Did you?
Yeah. And they have preview shots, so.
Yep.
Very
It's
cool.
coming.
Number 4. It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
Oh.
Again, this goes to the kids more,
It
but
goes to the 60-year-old women.
but you know
They
what?
could be kids on the inside.
My-
yeah.
Leave them alone.
You know, my kids absolutely love it. It's a classic
Yeah.
Yeah. That you can't watch this year on
that you can't watch this
cable.
year. So if, you know, hopefully you have it on DVD or streaming somewhere. Thoughts on the Great Pumpkin, guys?
Not as legendary as Charlie Brown Christmas, but it's up there.
Oh, fair enough. Number 3 is kind of a general one, but The Pit and the Pendulum,
Really?
starring Vincent Price, or you could go any Edgar Allan Poe movie starring Vincent Price.
I take it that you were growing up a fan of TCM on Halloween night.
I was.
Uh-huh.
I think over the last couple of years they've kind of just phoned it in, honestly. They've the last couple of years they've really just done the Hammer movies. They've done the Vincent Price movies, but they haven't really put any effort in. I was happy to see that they put the book out written by David J. Scull, 50 greatest or 50 must-watch horror movies during the Halloween time, and he's co-hosted a couple Friday nights, and he's on the show. So they put a little bit more into it this year, but you're not getting like the true classics, anymore.
Yeah, they're kind of like puttering out a little bit.
I remember watching TCM. I haven't seen in years, so I really not sure what their programming is like these days. I'm a streaming guy now. I have been for years. But I remember when I did have cable, I remember growing up and Halloween, they would start off with 1931's Frankenstein, and they would play all the Frankensteins consecutively, all the way through the Hammer films and such.
Then one night it would be Dracula, and then they do the Wolfman ones.
Yeah. But they don't do that no more, huh?
From what I've seen of their program, not really.
Yeah.
They'll do 2 or 3 movies that are kind of, related.
I'm also disappointed in AMC. Because now all they play is like Halloween 1, Halloween 5, Halloween, like the bad Halloweens with the exception of the original.
Well, I think that goes to what rights they actually get.
Programming,
Because we got to remember Halloween 2 is Universal, and if Universal doesn't want to give up those rights, to air it. Well, that brings me to my number 2. Halloween 1978.
Okay.
What more needs to be said there? Watching Halloween, the original, on Halloween.
I got to tell you, I'm curious at what your number 1 is because I was
expecting
for
it to be
sure
number
thinking
one. I
that
was
this would be
waiting.
number 1.
Okay, we'll go to number 1. All right, so number 1, and the reason why it is number 1 for me is because it is the only movie I actually make myself watch every year on Halloween. I've done it since I was a kid with the TCM before they stopped airing it. And then in the late 90s when the Legacy Collection came out, Frankenstein 1931. It is the only movie every Halloween I make myself watch. If, Halloween is on, I'll watch a little bit of it. But the one movie every single Halloween I watch, Frankenstein.
So going tradition for tradition's sake?
Yeah, and again, this is a very, this type of list is very based on your own personal opinion and personal preference. And, all these movies, and I can think of 100 others that would be great movies to watch on Halloween. But again, for me, the one that I watch every single year, and I'll be watching it today, Frankenstein.
What Halloween movie classics do you watch, Quinn?
Oh boy.
That must-watch movie every single year.
I have quite a few. That's the problem. Are you talking about just one? Or are you wanting a generalization?
You can give it a generalization, but build up to that number 1. I think we all have the number 1 that we have to watch.
I mean, I have kids, so I definitely do have some younger audience movies that I throw in there. So Hocus Pocus, Halloween Town, Nightmare Before Christmas, Halloween is a staple, Friday the 13th is a staple. There's so many, it's ridiculous. We used to just binge Halloween movies. Private Eyes is another one that's really big. It's not technically a Halloween movie, but it's one of the traditions. My number 1 movie that I have to watch on Halloween probably is Nightmare Before Christmas.
That's solid.
Because I'm so in love with that movie.
Okay, so this one is going to kind of come out of left field, and it's probably going to surprise you guys because it surprises me. It's something that I fell into, but I find myself that I do have to do it. I do have staples like everyone else does. I got to throw at least a Halloween movie on. If it's not the original, it's probably like H2O or one of my other favorites that I have to watch. Definitely have to throw one of those in. Definitely have to throw in a classic, Frankenstein, Dracula, Wolfman. I definitely always throw on at least some point, even if it's just background noise, the Monster Squad. It's a great staple for me personally. But I found that the past couple years, I have a weird instinct to do it, and it's because of my position, and I'm surprised it's not on any of your guys' list. Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Huh.
I have found myself, because I've worked in that show before, I find that ever since I have, and I've done it for many years, I can't go a Halloween without putting it on. It used to be because of my job. I was forced to watch it, and then even when I wasn't working, I'd still put it on.
You know what? That's probably a number one or a favorite for a lot of people.
And I'm not even saying it's my favorite. It's just one of those weird things I gotta do.
Yeah.
My Halloween is not complete without it, kind of thing.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. So yeah, Psychos, we want to know what your top 5, or at least your number 1 must-watch horror movie on Halloween is. So light up those comment boxes on our social media or on YouTube. We want to know, and we'll give you a shout out on the show. The more interesting, the better.
We also want to know what your traditions are, whether you have a Samhain tradition or you do like those Halloween horror hosts. Tell us if you have any favorites when it comes to those, and we'll tell you if we think you're fucking wrong or not.
So with that, we thank you for spending a few minutes of your Halloween with us here at ScariFive. We hope you stay safe. We hope you have fun, most importantly. And we'll see you next week right here on ScariFive.
Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Everything ScariFive, and happy Halloween.
ScariFive.